So going back to physical activity and going back to what I said earlier, it is any movement. And going back to what I said at the beginning of the presentation, remember, some movement is better than no movement. Some movement is going to literally save your life. So let's talk about what happens when there are some people who don't even do some movements. And as a result, there is lack of physical activity, which is really causing a lot of stress on, the healthcare system, not just in India, but all over the world. And that is why there are people like me to reinforce the importance of literally just moving. So the physical activity statistics, lack of physical activity is linked with 5.3 million deaths per year. It definitely invites lifestyle diseases like diabetes, hypertension, PCOS in women, obesity in both men and women, high blood pressure. And these lifestyle diseases are also, remember, they also have a genetic component. So if both your parents are diabetic, or if one is hypertensive and one is diabetic, then you're carrying the predisposing factor towards these diseases. But if you sit without moving, if you don't pay attention to your health at all, you are still equally predisposable to all these lifestyle oriented conditions, which is why I have written there that these will happen to you without you having any risk factors towards them. And obviously then all this leads to very high healthcare costs, where in India is just second to China in being the diabetes capital of the world. So 74 million into 2017 were diabetic. This number is going to grow to 134.3 million in 2045. And around 70% of Indians are undiagnosed with diabetes. And that is the most worrying part. There are so many of us who don't even know we have diabetes because we're not testing, because we're used to feeling uncomfortable, because we're used to feeling bloated, because we're used to maybe feeling very hungry at certain times of the day and eating, when that, could be a sign of high fasting blood sugar, or what is called as impaired glucose tolerance, IGT. So what are the physical activity guidelines? Yes, it is any movement that you can do, but WHO, the World Health Organization, has a certain set of guidelines for all of us. So basically, they tell you what is the bare minimum time that you need to be moving. It is 150 to 300 minutes of moderate intensity aerobic activity throughout the day. They are not saying you have to do this continuously in a day. You can space it out. We'll go towards the vigorous activity and the muscle strengthening group later. But right now, let's just focus on the 150 to 300 minutes of moderate intensity aerobic activity. So what this basically means is you have to move 20 to 40 minutes per day. And it doesn't have to be continuous. Now, the American Council of Sports Medicine, ACSM, says that any physical activity, if you're doing it, don't do it for 5 minutes and then stop. Do it for 10 minutes at the minimum, and then you can do it multiple times in the day. So since I said physical activity is any activity, you can do anything that you like. You can do gardening, you can take your dog for a walk, you can clean the house, you can play with your kids, you can move around your plants, you can fidget in your chair, you can lift your hands, you can put them to the side. All of this is physical activity. The only thing is that just look into it, time yourself, and at a time when you're moving your hands, move them for 10 minutes. If you're walking your dog, don't walk for less than 10 minutes. If you're jumping around with your kids, jump for 10 minutes and then sit down. That is being physically active. So now, where does exercise fit into this? If physical activity is enough to keep us, to cover our baseline cardiovascular fitness, why do we need to exercise? This is because just being cardiovascularly fit does not mean that you have good flexibility. It does not mean that your muscle tone is, where it needs to be. So tomorrow, if you have to quickly climb a flight of stairs to reach a meeting, or you have to run to an elevator door before it slams shut, you're going to completely go out of breath, because those energy systems of your body, or those systems of your body, have not been used. You are just maintaining a very base level of basic fitness by indulging in 20 to 40 minutes of a physical activity of your choice.